Tonight, the world is watching one of the most dangerous political and military escalations in recent years. Tensions between the United States and Iran are rising rapidly, and global leaders are now warning that the situation could spiral into a major international crisis. What began as political pressure and strong diplomatic language has now turned into military warnings, economic threats, and rising fears of a large-scale conflict in the Middle East. At the center of this growing crisis is former U.S. President Donald Trump, whose recent statements about Iran have sparked intense global reactions and renewed concerns about stability in one of the world's most sensitive regions. Iran, on the other hand, has responded with firm and direct warnings of its own, making it clear that any aggressive move would be met with a serious and calculated response. Iran, on the other hand, has responded with firm and direct warnings of its own, making it clear that any aggressive move would be met with a serious and calculated response. This is not just another political disagreement. This is not just diplomatic tension. This is a developing geopolitical confrontation that could impact oil markets, global trade, military alliances, and the future of stability in the Middle East. From Washington to Tehran, from Ottawa to European capitals, governments are closely monitoring every move, every statement, and every signal coming from both sides. The reason is simple. Any direct confrontation between the United States and Iran would not remain limited to one region. It would affect global energy supplies, international markets, and security across multiple continents. Oil prices are already reacting. Markets are becoming nervous. And political analysts are warning that even a small military miscalculation could trigger a chain reaction with global consequences. So what exactly happened today? What did Trump say that sparked global concern? How did Iran respond? And most importantly, could this situation actually turn into a military confrontation? In tonight's report, we will break down the full story, step by step, with verified facts, expert analysis, and a clear look at what may happen next. Stay with us as we examine the latest developments, the political motivations behind the statements, and the possible future scenarios that could shape international relations in the coming weeks. This is Prime Political News, and here is the full story behind the rising tensions between the United States and Iran. To understand the seriousness of the situation, we need to look closely at what actually happened today and why it has captured global attention so quickly. Earlier today, political tensions between the United States and Iran intensified after strong statements were made regarding security, military readiness, and regional stability in the Middle East. According to multiple political and media reports, discussions around Iran's strategic position and regional influence have once again become a central topic in international politics. The United States has been closely monitoring Iran's activities, particularly in areas related to military development, energy routes, and regional alliances. At the same time, diplomatic pressure has been increasing through political statements, international messaging, and growing discussions about possible consequences if tensions continue to rise. Former U.S. President Donald Trump made strong remarks that quickly spread across international media and social platforms, drawing attention from governments, analysts, and global observers. These remarks focused on national security, regional stability, and the need to prevent any potential threats that could affect U.S. interests or international peace. Shortly after these statements, Iranian officials responded with firm language, emphasizing their country's sovereignty and warning against any form of pressure or military intimidation. Leaders in Iran stated that they are prepared to defend their national interests and that any external pressure would not change their strategic position. This exchange of statements created a wave of reactions across global media. Political analysts began discussing possible scenarios, ranging from diplomatic negotiations to economic pressure and even the possibility of increased military presence in the region. Meanwhile, international observers highlighted the importance of avoiding escalation, stressing that political dialogue remains the best option to prevent a larger crisis. Another important development is the growing concern over strategic waterways and global energy routes. The Middle East remains one of the most critical regions for global oil supply, and any tension involving Iran automatically raises concerns about energy stability and international trade. This is why financial markets, oil companies, and political institutions are closely watching every update. Even small changes in political signals can affect investor confidence, market stability, and global economic expectations. In Washington, political circles are analyzing the situation carefully, while international partners and allies are calling for calm and responsible leadership. At the same time, media coverage has increased significantly, turning this issue into one of the most discussed political developments of the day. The situation is still evolving, and new statements or diplomatic moves could change the direction of events at any moment. So the key question now becomes clear. What exactly is the political message behind Trump's statements? And what is the United States trying to achieve through this pressure? That is exactly what we will explore in the next part of this report. Now that we understand what happened today, the next important question is, what is the real meaning behind Donald Trump's statements? And what strategy could be driving this political pressure? Former U.S. President Donald Trump is known for using strong and direct political language, especially when it comes to national security and international relations. His approach has always focused on projecting strength, sending clear warnings, and emphasizing the importance of protecting American interests both at home and abroad. Political analysts believe that Trump's recent statements about Iran are part of a broader strategy aimed at increasing diplomatic and political pressure. This strategy is not new. During his previous administration, Trump followed a policy of maximum pressure on Iran, including economic sanctions, political isolation, and strong military deterrence. The goal of that strategy was to limit Iran's regional influence and push Tehran toward negotiations under stricter international conditions. Today, many experts see a similar pattern emerging again. Strong public statements often serve multiple purposes in international politics. First, they send a message to Iran that the United States is closely watching the situation and is ready to respond if necessary. Second, they reassure American allies in the region that Washington remains committed to stability and security. And third, they create political leverage in case diplomatic negotiations begin in the future. In other words, strong language in politics is sometimes used as a tool to gain negotiating power rather than to start an immediate conflict. Many foreign policy experts believe that such statements are designed to influence decision-making in Tehran without necessarily moving directly toward military confrontation. Another important factor is domestic politics. Strong foreign policy positions often resonate with political supporters and reinforce the image of leadership and national strength. This helps shape public perception and strengthens political influence both domestically and internationally. At the same time, U.S. institutions, military leadership, and diplomatic channels usually work in parallel to maintain balance and avoid uncontrolled escalation. This creates a complex political environment where strong public statements exist alongside behind-the-scenes diplomatic communication. So while the language may sound aggressive, the actual objective is often strategic pressure combined with diplomatic positioning. However, this kind of strategy also carries risks. Misunderstandings, miscalculations, or unexpected military incidents could quickly change the situation and push both sides toward a dangerous confrontation. That is why global leaders and international organizations are closely watching every move and every statement coming from Washington and Tehran. The next major question now becomes even more important. How did Iran respond to these statements? And what message is Tehran trying to send to the United States and the international community? That is exactly what we will explore in the next part of this report. Following the strong political statements coming from Washington, attention quickly shifted toward Tehran, where officials in Iran responded with firm and carefully worded messages. Iranian leadership made it clear that the country will continue to defend its sovereignty, national interests, and regional position, while also emphasizing that pressure and threats would not force Tehran to change its strategic policies. Government officials stressed that Iran has the right to protect its security and maintain its influence in the region, especially in an environment where geopolitical tensions continue to grow. At the same time, Iranian political figures called for respect for international law and diplomatic dialogue, stating that stability in the Middle East can only be achieved through negotiation and mutual understanding rather than escalation. This response reflects a long-standing position in Iranian foreign policy. Tehran often presents itself as a country that is ready for dialogue but unwilling to accept external pressure or political intimidation. In official statements, Iranian representatives highlighted the importance of regional stability and warned that any aggressive action could lead to serious consequences for the entire region. The message was clear. Iran does not want war, but it is prepared to respond if it feels threatened. This type of response is common in geopolitical conflicts, where countries try to balance between showing strength and avoiding direct confrontation. Political analysts believe that Iran's response is designed to send multiple signals at the same time. One signal is directed toward the United States, showing that Tehran is not easily pressured. Another signal is aimed at regional allies, reassuring them that Iran remains stable and confident. And a third signal is directed toward the international community, emphasizing that Iran is open to diplomacy but refuses to negotiate under threats. This strategic communication helps Iran maintain its political image on the global stage while keeping diplomatic channels open. However, the situation remains highly sensitive. Even strong diplomatic language can increase tension if both sides continue to escalate their rhetoric. That is why many international observers are now calling for calm, dialogue, and responsible political leadership from both Washington and Tehran. The risk of misunderstanding or miscalculation remains one of the biggest concerns. History has shown that geopolitical tensions can quickly escalate when communication breaks down or when political signals are interpreted incorrectly. For this reason, global powers and international organizations are now closely monitoring the situation, hoping that diplomacy will prevail over confrontation.